Fellas, you don't want to wife that up. And girls, if you act like her, you're not going to get wifed up. I'm just letting you know. You know what I mean?
From what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like you feel like she's a plant. You feel like Sexyy Red a plant?
Probably yes. Yep. And I think that plant shit is real. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to believe that there are industry plants, you know, the Tekashi 6ix9ines and, you know, people like that that are put in this game to skew the minds of the masses.
Now, I might not agree with Lord Jamar on a lot of things, but on this one, I'm definitely in agreement. So in this video, we got the Sexyy Red experiment has officially failed by Blackie Speaks. And thank goodness. Now, look, I don't be praying on nobody's downfall or nothing, but there's just some things you got to say enough is enough. All right. There's some things we just can't tolerate. And this type of Black influence is one of those things. Let's get into the video.
Now, Sexyy Red just over a year ago was one of the most popular new female rappers in the entire industry. After receiving a massive marketing push, it really looked like she was unstoppable. But now, it seems like the Sexyy Red experiment might have failed. Or has it? Let's talk about it. Sexyy Red
Please let it fail, please.
is a 27-year-old rapper from St. Louis, Missouri, who broke into the mainstream back in late 2023 after her song Pound Town went viral. After the success of that record,
I will say this real quick, though. Sexyy Red ain't the first, nor will she be the last. It's just the sad truth. And she speaks to those that come from environments and situations and grew up the way she grew up. She speaks to those people. And the fact of the matter is this: as long as you got a group of people like that, who like that type of music, with whom that type of music resonates, you'll always have, the industry will always find an artist to put there. But also, it is part of it is a push to promote ignorance, right? It's a push to promote ignorance and to promote, in a lot of ways, the worst of our culture, because it seems like that's what they like to put the most money behind, or those destructive or unbecoming elements and lifestyle that, you know, represent really a small portion of the whole Black American culture.
she later secured a remix with Nicki Minaj, and that same year, Drake featured her on his album. From there, it looked like nothing could stop Sexyy Red. Her music was everywhere, she was trending nonstop. She became the new face of a certain kind of female rap energy, raw, unapologetic, and in your face. However, during her rise, we saw a lot of what I would call dysfunctional behavior. Something I actually dove into in my 30-minute documentary last year, The Dysfunction of Sexyy Red. Among many things, we had situations like the teacher incident. Back in November 2023, a young ballet teacher went viral after expressing frustration about her students singing along to one of Sexyy Red's most explicit songs, which was, of course, Pound Town.
Your 5-year-old daughters are asking to listen to Pound Town. Your 5-year-old daughters are asking, can we hear Pound Town?
A normal reaction.
I remember that clip too. Hey, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. That's great. I wish, and my daughter right now is 5. I wish she would. She wouldn't though. She wouldn't. We don't even let them listen to that type of music in the house. But yeah, I really couldn't imagine my 5-year-old daughter singing Pound Town. That would be an immediate chastisement. And I ain't talking about like hit or anything like that, but that would definitely be like a, yo, yeah, I'm gonna talk to her a little sternly. You know what I mean? Where the hell did you learn that from? Because I know she didn't learn it in the house, because we don't listen to it in the house. But yeah, no, that's crazy. And you know what's worse is the parents that think it's cute though. Oh, look at her. Look at her. I ain't gonna lie, man. Stuff like that really gets up under my skin.
Especially coming from a woman who works with children every single day and understands what it's like growing up as a young girl herself. Now, she was simply pointing out the negative influence that songs like that could have on young kids. But instead of reflecting on something which was pretty fair criticism, Sexyy Red brushed it off, replying, "Girl, shut the hell up and play my song." And that moment right there said a lot, because the dysfunction wasn't in just what she said. It was in her complete inability to recognize her music, while profitable, is also inappropriate for the children who idolize her. And then when that teacher spoke up, she was ridiculed. while Sexyy Red kept on climbing. Then there was the school visit. Just a few weeks after, Sexyy Red made headlines again, and that time it was after reportedly getting kicked out of a school in her hometown of St. Louis for smelling like marijuana. She later reacted in a very angry way after the school actually turned her away and essentially told her, hey, you can't be here because you smell like Mary J. And Sexyy Red was saying that she just wanted to speak to the kids.
So this school put me, I came up here, got you, trying to talk to the kids, getting the word of that, they gonna put me on me. Tell me I smell like weed, watch this. My job hard. Every day I'm fighting for my life, every day. Trying to put me out from this school, I'm coming back around.
And the question a lot of people had was, wait a second, why are you?
Yeah, man, it ain't a good look. Ain't no way you're going to sit here and justify this bullshit to me. I guess she's young and all that, but ain't no excuse for this. And no, you can't come talk to the kids. No. Please. Thank you, but no thank you. Anybody that sits there and try to justify this or say that they'll be okay with their kids being around it and all of that, like, man, I feel sorry for the kids. Let's just put it that way. But I think even more so, like what really gets you in these incidents isn't even so much the acts, it's the response to the acts. It's not even one of those things where she's like, you know what, I understand, and my goal isn't to come off disrespectful. My goal isn't to influence the kids in the wrong way or to be a negative role model. It was just to do this, but I can understand if anybody took it the wrong way, or and I apologize. Anything where you show, okay, maybe that's not the right approach. Let me try this, especially if it's about the kids. But it ain't about the kids. Or it is about the kids, but it's about a negative influence on those kids.
Showing up to a school smelling like weed, regardless of if you were invited or not. And that kind of thing definitely made it clear that Sexyy Red was very detached from basic accountability. Instead of leaving, she actually decided to turn up outside the school with a crowd of students.
St. Louis native known for her raunchy lyrics, making national headlines over a recent performance outside of a rally that was for kids. Well, national recording artist Sexyy Red, whose name is Janae Wary, drawing criticism tonight over her behavior and performance after a student rally Wednesday at Chaffetz.
You know, the other aspect of this that's just not good, besides looking like a damn fool, you begin to make enemies of parents and fans, right? And even if you have a younger fan base, of course, they'll find ways to listen if they want. But when you start really ticking off parents and you start ticking off schools and you start ticking off politicians or whoever it is that you start to rub the wrong way, things like that can contribute to your precipitous downfall. You know what I'm saying? Parents is going to be more strict. Even if you had a parent that would let it slide, letting one of their children listen to her music, which I don't know why you would, but if you did, something like this might change your mind, but hopefully you wasn't one of those parents who thought it was okay in the first place. But yeah, you coming off as just arrogant, you coming off as dismissive, and you kind of disrespecting people to the point where now they're going to really actively partake in blackballing you or keeping you out of their personal space when it comes to listening to you on the radio or whatever it may be, right?
Organization involved telling First Alert 4 tonight she was never even invited.
Despite being told not to be on the property. Obviously, that's the kind of thing any regular person would have faced real consequences for, but when you're famous, rich, and poppin', consequences don't always apply. Now, this pattern actually continued because after this came the 4C hair comments. Now, in a clip posted to Instagram, Sexyy Red actually showed off her straightened hair, and she mocked women with 4C hair. For anyone who doesn't know what 4C hair is, it's essentially the natural hair type that most black women have. And Sexyy Red, she posted this photo of herself and said, "You carpet hair beanie neck hoes could never." And then she obviously got backlash for this.
And I just hate the fact that we make fun of things that we cannot change. We cannot change hair texture. And
it's funny because this ain't a new thing. This ain't a new thing in the black community. Y'all know that. This ain't a new thing. But the thing is that really Sexyy Red's real hair too. A lot of times when the women criticize women with 4C hair, right? They're not even wearing their own hair, or their shit's been straight and permed or something like that. Let's see what your shit look like natural. Let's see what it look like natural. Most of them don't have their natural hair. Even if they ain't wearing weave or something, they done did something to process that hair. So that's the irony of it all. It's like, you don't even have your own natural hair. What are you talking about? I got way more respect for the woman who wear her shit naturally than you in that case. But yeah, this isn't a new thing amongst black women in the black community as far as calling each other nappy headed bitches and shit like that. It's not cool. I'm just saying, like, this ain't new though. This ain't a Sexyy Red thing for real, for real. It's just, she just put it on social media.
It's sad because this is who's in the mainstream media talking like this, and a lot of people are growing up having her as a role model for whatever reason, and they're gonna start seeing carpet hair. It's already a search in TikTok is carpet hair. The hair texture that you have does not determine how beautiful you are. What your face looks like really doesn't determine how beautiful you are. It's your aura, it's your personality that determines how beautiful you are. Well,
a lot of women with coursey hair or 4C hair or whatever you want to say are beautiful because of that hairstyle. So yeah, no, I think that hairstyle is really beautiful, especially depending on how they do their hair and it's all about how you wear it, man. How you style it up and shit.
And then when that backlash came, she responded in a very distasteful way.
Of course.
She said, I fuck with carpet hair, but would still call women that if they talked smack.
Oh, what the fuck? And see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why a lot of us get criticized. I hate being lumped in with people like this. With carpet hair, they cool, but if you talking I'ma call you carpet hair. None gets my fellow 4C hoochies. I just lost like 5 brain cells.
Carpet hair, but would still call women that if they talked smack. Obviously not the smartest move because, you know, the majority of her fan base is actually made up of the same black women that she was shading. And also,
no, that's what I'm saying. She just keep disrespecting people that could be her potential fan base. It makes absolutely no sense at all.
It's like you're a black woman yourself and you have this hair type yourself naturally. And just because you strain that hair that one time, that doesn't really take away from the fact that you naturally have that hair type. You get what I'm saying? So that's the kind of thing that kind of comes across as like, you know what they call it, internalized hatred. And this is what made it very ironic because Sexyy Red's entire brand was always built on exaggerating the same negative stereotypes of black women that she herself insulted. But then we also have the viral tape. And in October 2023, Sexyy Red accidentally posted a private tape on her Instagram story. I'm sure you probably know what that private tape was, right?
Now, people said that you leaked your sex tape on purpose.
Mm-hmm. It was on Instagram, like a little short clip video. And then through the phone, and it got accidentally pressed like that.
She later claimed on an interview with the Breakfast Club that it wasn't intentional, but anyone with a functioning brain can tell that it was. The timing, the context, the way it boosted her visibility all point to this being part of the marketing strategy. Because remember, her biggest song, Pound Town, literally revolves around her body and sexuality, okay? So when the world suddenly gets visual evidence connected to those lyrics, what do you think happens? A viral storm. And this kind of thing is part of building a brand identity in today's industry. Not just for Red, but for any artist trying to connect their image to a specific idea or aesthetic. It's very profitable and it works. In this case, we have shock, scandal, and controversy being the core of that identity. And in this situation, none of it was an accident. It was all strategy. This is how an artist...
That's how you know, though, you struggling. When they start leaking sex tapes and shit like that and doing all the crazy stuff, they struggling.
Gets branded, sold, and introduced to the public by the record labels. And like a lot of us know, the more extreme the image is, the more attention it draws. And the more attention it draws, the more money it makes for the people behind the scenes. But here's the most worrying part about all of this. A huge portion of her audience is made up of children, specifically young black girls who look up to her, imitate her, and see her as a representation of what confidence looks like. And so when those same girls watch a public figure leak her own tape and then pretend it was an accident, it sends a dangerous message that attention is worth more than dignity. When it comes to being a public figure, no.
That's a good point, man. Attention is worth more than dignity. Ain't that the place where we at right now, for real? On just in the world online, attention is worth more than dignity, man. Motherfuckers will do anything for a little bit of attention. Don't matter how crazy it make them look. It don't matter how their family might feel about it. It don't matter how it might affect their kids. Kids got to go to school, might get made fun of. Who knows? It don't matter. It matter. They just need that hit, that attention. dignity, respect be damned. And God forbid you try to check them on it or say something about it or criticize them. Then they want to gaslight you or try to, do the reverse psychology and make it like you wrong. I can live my life. Yeah, but okay. But if you put it out there, we can comment on it. We can criticize it. And the shit ain't cool. But yeah, man, selling out for some motherfucking attention. That's crazy.
No matter how you look at it, there is a level of responsibility that comes with that. With great power comes great responsibility. And it's not about being perfect 24/7 or operating like a role model every second of the day, but at least being conscious of how your actions land and who they actually speak to is very important. Now, in Sexyy Red's case, I never expected that kind of responsibility from her, at least based on how she moved up until that point. But that's exactly the point here. The industry knew that. They knew she wasn't going to filter herself or self-correct or think about the impact that her negative actions are having on people, the world, and the youth. And in a way, that's what made her the perfect candidate for this experiment. Because before Sexyy Red was handpicked, and listen to what I just said here, okay? Handpicked to be elevated to the spotlight, there's a very real process that happens behind the scenes. Personalities of this type don't just blow up by accident. Their image, their behavior, all of it is observed, analyzed, and measured by the people who decide who gets pushed and who doesn't. And this explains something.
Yeah, you'll be a damn fool if you think that this is all just happenstance. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody just looked at her and was like, damn, she talented. Damn, man, she's got bars. I mean, this is the one. Like, no. Somebody looked at her and said, yeah. Oh yeah, I can market that. I can package that up. This has got to be one of the most ignorant niggas. Yeah, oh yeah, we can sell this shit right here. You know what I mean? A little glitz, little glitter, little glam. Sprinkle that on top of all that ignorance. Oh yeah, we got one. And run that and let that shit run its course.
A lot of people have wondered about for years, which is why do so many public figures suddenly explode in popularity yet seem to completely lack a moral compass? Why do the most chaotic, reckless, or controversial artists get the biggest push? That's not by accident. How it works is this. Labels, investors, and media companies collectively look for what's profitable, not what's healthy, uplifting, or balanced. They look for personalities that can generate attention.
And especially when it comes to the Black community. But a good portion of it, we got to take some responsibility, is that we accept a lot of this shit sometimes. Now, people like myself and you wonderful people, we don't accept that shit. But a good portion of our community accepts it and they don't demand better. And so, yeah, because if that wasn't the case, this shit wouldn't even have a chance, right? You really wouldn't be able to give it a life, or it would stay underground. I'm not saying there wouldn't be no life for it, because you're always going to have misfits. You're always going to have people who are feel like outcasts, whatever the case may be. And there's going to be an audience for that. But most of that shit would be underground. When it starts to get mainstream and it gets into huge platforms and things like that, that's when you know that there's something else to it, right? And they know that the demographic that they're marketing to is going to, enough of them is going to accept it to warrant or justify such a large investment, because that's a large investment.
Even if that attention comes from dysfunction, because attention is currency. And someone who doesn't self-reflect or set boundaries is easier to brand, easier to manipulate, and easier to push into extreme directions. Sure. And during that evaluation process, a lot of questions get asked behind the scenes. Questions like who can push the public's buttons the most, who can trigger the strongest reactions, who will go the furthest without questioning the impact. That's why I felt like Sexyy Red was being extra provocative during her blow-up period. It wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. It was very planned. It was orchestrated in a way that maximized shock, maximized virality, and maximized profit. And despite all that dysfunction, it seemed like she just kept going up. Every controversy, every viral moment, instead of things slowing down, it almost felt like it was fueling her career even more. And my theory has always been that there's, of course, a reason for that. See, I personally think that Sexyy Red was getting this push for one main reason: to promote a very specific image, a very negative one. Because in a world where media has always shaped how we view people, especially Black people, Sexyy Red became a tool for the music industry to push a modern version of one of the oldest and most damaging stereotypes about Black women. I'm talking about the Jezebel stereotype.
Jezebel, loud mouth, raunchy, no home training, shitty upbringing. But you know what else though? because again, she ain't the first and won't be the last. They tend to do these things, whether it's through music or whatever, but music is one of the main venues and vehicles because it touches so many people, right? It's easier to reach a lot of people fast, right? It's not necessarily like TV or whatever, where you really might need some talent. You know what I'm saying? Acting and shit. But it's not. And the reason what you'll notice if you pay attention to things like this, you'll see things like this happen, especially during a time when we may be in the beginning stages of or going into any sort of quote unquote Black awakening, Black movement, awareness, where you have Black figures, especially public figures, promoting unity, anything that has to do with the betterment of the Black community. You will tend to start to see things like this take place, and they will bring out the worst images, the worst stereotypes that you can think of. They will find a way to embody that in some sort of entertainer / star, and they will run with it and promote it until and the goal is, of course, to get to the kids and to try to drown out the positivity. It's a very old playbook, and the problem is not enough people realize it, because if they did, we still wouldn't be dealing with a lot of the issues that we still deal with.
Getting back to slavery, this stereotype painted Black women as hypersexual, uncontrollable, and defined entirely by their bodies.
Overly aggressive.
That was used to justify the exploitation and abuse of Black women for generations. And somehow that same imagery is still being recycled today, just packaged with beats and marketing. And hip hop has always been an art form to empower Black voices. However, it has unfortunately been hijacked to do the opposite. And Sexyy Red, whether she realizes or not, became the face of that. Her entire brand, her lyrics, her visuals, and even the way she's promoted, it all fed into that same narrative, that the only way a Black woman can be seen, celebrated, or go viral is by being sexualized, loud, and reckless.
Right.
And Red eventually became very successful. She's undoubtedly generated a whole lot of money for the music industry. And for a while, the experiment worked. But now things are starting to shift. A lot of you guys might have noticed how Sexyy Red isn't being talked about nearly as much as before. And there's a few reasons for that. Now let's take it back. Take it way back to how it all started. Before Sexyy Red took off, she was discovered by a Miami-based label and management company called Rebel Music back in 2021. They came across some of her early songs and decided to sign her. Her A&R executive stated that once she got off the plane and I heard her voice, I knew she was a star.
I'm sorry, but there's no way you can listen to her old music and shit like that and think, I know this. No, I'm sorry. No.
2023, the peak of her blow up, and Gamma, a new media company, stepped in to handle her distribution. Now let's talk a little bit about Gamma, because this was the company behind her true rise. Now this company was founded by a Larry Jackson. Some of you guys in the music industry might know who this is. He actually spent 7 years as Apple Music's global creative director before leaving in 2022 to start Gamma, a company that claims to create, distribute, and market content focused on Black culture. And according to Larry Jackson himself, that focus on Black culture isn't just a slogan, it's the entire pitch. Because when Gamma was launched, it wasn't some small experimental startup. They actually came out the gate backed by $1 billion in financing.
Damn.
And the question is, where did they get that money from? We'll get to that in a second. And this money was apparently being put to work, particularly and acutely on Black culture.
You don't find that suspicious?
So $1 billion dedicated specifically to Black culture. Interesting. Now, Larry Jackson is a very much recognized name in the music industry. Most people, whether it's managers, artists, or anyone else who actually works in the music industry, most times they know who he is, right? Billboard even named Larry Jackson the R&B and hip hop executive of the year.
Now we got to really pay attention, because this is where you really see why people say industry plant, and it's all about the machine, because that $1 billion of investment has to be paid back to the investors with interest, right? So what's that mean? You're going to do whatever you can to get that money back. And if that means doing things like this, using the worst of Black culture because you know it's profitable, then that's what you're going to do.
Year. They described him as someone who's able to bring things to life, with artists like Travis Scott praising the way he moves. So he's been getting a lot of cosigns from a lot of very prominent artists as well. And one of the first big moves the company Gamma that he started made was facilitating a deal where TikTok's 1 billion plus users got exclusive access to the entire Death Row catalog, which included Snoop Dogg's classic Doggy Style album and the late Tupac's All Eyes on Me as well. Now right here, Larry Jackson demonstrated exactly the kind of pull he and his company Gamma actually has and what it's apparently built to do. Use massive capital, massive access, and massive cultural leverage to shape what the general public, but especially Black audiences, consume and how they consume it. Now, when you understand that, Sexyy Red's rise starts looking a lot less organic and a lot more like a calculated extension of that
no
mission.
doubt about it.
Now, alongside Larry Jackson, we also have Ike Yusuf, Gamma's president. Now, Ike previously worked at Interscope Records as a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and he holds degrees in business, economics, and accounting. So his background is strictly corporate, not creative. Together, these two essentially built Gamma to be a hybrid between a label and a media powerhouse. And Sexyy Red quickly became one of their biggest test cases, the face of a very calculated experiment that combined viral marketing, controversy, and cultural packaging under the banner of representation. But here's where things get interesting. The largest investor in Gamma isn't someone from the culture at all. It's Todd Boehly, a 52-year-old American businessman of German heritage who's worth over $8 billion.
Let's get
so
to it, man.
Actually starts to make sense where they got that initial billion from, right? So the main investor behind a company that claims to focus on Black culture is a white billionaire who also happens to co-own Los Angeles Dodgers and Chelsea Football Club.
Crazy, because you'll always find these types of people willing to invest billions into the destructive elements of Black culture, but it's few and far in between when it comes to doing things that's going to help build Black culture, that's going to help make it better, that's going to help put centers and things like that and resources into Black communities. They'll put all the money in the world behind shit like this. But God forbid you need more community centers. God forbid you need more resources and things like that for the Black community in general, overall. And it's few and far in between, man. Few and far in between. I ain't gonna say nobody invests, but it's hard to find. But shit like this, yeah, there is not a shortage of willing investors to invest in this element of Black culture, the destructive side, for sure.
And, that's kind of where the dots start to connect. Because one of the biggest questions people had when Sexyy Red started popping up everywhere was how? Like, how is all this possible? How does someone with that kind of image suddenly get this massive push from every direction? Well, now it should make sense to you. When you realize that the machine behind Sexyy Red included a billionaire investor worth nearly $9 billion.
That's crazy.
A major media company with deep Apple Music ties and a label infrastructure designed to amplify controversy, it starts painting a very clear picture. And this is something Candace Owens actually spoke about some time back as well.
Gamma has a lot of power. I'll tell you why Gamma has a lot of power. Because the two individuals that started Gamma, one of them came out of Apple. His name is Larry Jackson. And the second one of them came from Interscope Records. He has a ton of clout in the record community, the music community industry, so to speak. And his name is Ike Yusuf. Larry Jackson, who I mentioned before, is Black. And he is the person that I am more interested in.
For anyone who doesn't recognize the face or name, Candace Owens is an American political commentator and author.
We know Candace, man.
Conservative activist. Now, she's covered a lot of these same connections, pointing out how the entertainment industry profits off of promoting chaos, dysfunction, and over-sexualization, especially when it comes to Black artists. Now, interestingly enough, this connects to something rapper Ice Cube talked about on Bill Maher's podcast. Ice Cube spoke about the same kind of manipulation, which is what he called social engineering, where record labels act like gatekeepers. And he said that they essentially don't tell artists exactly what to say, but they make sure that the most destructive messages are the ones that get pushed to the top.
The records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
But they didn't make you write those lyrics.
It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't.
And this is
not just that, but incentivizing those things, right? And so, as the saying goes, what's understood don't need to be said. So you just say certain things, however they want to put it to the artist. Not only that, the money they put behind certain things, the artists know, they understand this is what they want, this is what works, so on and so forth. So yeah, it ain't just the guardrails and putting the certain music out. It's also the unspoken words, right? The unspoken things that they want the artist to understand. Hey, this is the direction we want you to go in.
An idea we've explored conversationally over time, so it's nothing new, right? Now, Ice Cube was essentially saying, if you follow the money, you'll start noticing how the same people who own major record labels also have ownership stakes in private prisons. Now, that's another conversation I'll explore in depth in another video. Whether you believe what Ice Cube said or not, the underlying message underneath is very clear. The industry profits off of chaos, dysfunction, and division. And when you look at what gets the biggest push, the artists who glorify violence, crime, or hypersexuality, it starts to make a lot of sense, right? And this is how a lot of these experiments start. Now, for Sexyy Red, I think they decided to push the boundaries even further, especially when it comes to the raunchiness and shock value. Because here's the thing, we live in a time where, let's just say that people are extremely desensitized in all types of ways. Nothing surprises anyone anymore. So to grab everybody's attention, like to grab the attention of the public, you almost have to go to the extreme. You have to be louder, you have to be wilder, you have to be more provocative than the last person, or you'll get drowned out in the noise. And Sexyy Red.
And what people don't realize too, that's why it's red. That's why her name is Sexyy Red, and that's why she wears red. Red is a color used in marketing, right? It's loud, it demands attention. Look up the psychology of marketing. Red is really important, just like blue is too. It depends on the message you're trying to convey. And this is just a quick summary. The marketing psychology behind red is its ability to evoke strong, immediate emotions like passion, energy, and urgency, making it highly effective for capturing attention and encouraging action. It is a physically stimulating color that can increase heart rate and appetite, and it's used for calls to action, sales, and brands that want to appear bold and adventurous. It's a lot in that.
Red became the perfect vessel for that strategy, because one thing about the public is that we react to extremes. If you show us something that feels outrageous, controversial, or wild enough, it grabs our attention instantly. And in an experiment where attention equals profit, the industry keeps testing how far they can go. They take these sample sizes of artists, amplify the most polarizing ones, and study what happens next, how people react, how the internet responds, how the controversy spreads. If it goes viral, they double down on that formula. If it doesn't, they move on to the next artist. That's exactly what we've seen happen in this case right here. Sexyy Red was a test subject for how far they could stretch the public's tolerance for dysfunction, for explicitness, for chaos, all while disguising it as authenticity. Now, what's happening right now with Sexyy Red though, because she's obviously not getting the same marketing push that she was. Before we even get to Sexyy Red, we got to look at what's been happening in rap overall. Now, a few days ago, we talked about that Billboard report, the one showing that for the first time since the 90s, there wasn't a single rap song in the Hot 100's top 40. Rap's market share has been slipping for years. This is something a lot of people know, right? Labels aren't investing in hip hop like they used to, and a lot of the newer sounds just aren't connecting with the public anymore. Meanwhile, country, Latin, Afrobeats, and pop are dominating. So the industry has shifted towards safe artists with guaranteed returns, meaning the machine has been, pulling back on rappers across the board, not just Sexyy Red. Now for Sexyy Red, she's undoubtedly an artist who's fueled by antics. And an artist in that category usually gets a huge marketing push during that initial discovery phase where the label throws everything at them to create momentum. And it works at first. It always does. But later on, things start to slow down because antics have an expiration date.
Yeah, it's a gimmick. That's why. It's a gimmick. There's no talent behind it.
That's just how it is. There's also a growing level of fatigue towards these characters who get pushed nonstop, not just in the music industry, but just in social media in general. And the reason for this fatigue, in my opinion, is because people today are way more conscious, way more self-aware, way more spiritually tuned in than they were in the past. Because here's the thing, I'm sure you know this, right? We're living in a time where there's so many things that are attacking our attention, our energy, and our peace. So people can feel when something is forced and when something is spiritually empty. Sexyy Red went through that period where she was being prioritized, where the machine was fully behind her, pushing her into every corner of the culture and industry. But things are a little different now. Just a year and some change later, that momentum isn't the same. The push isn't the same, and the public isn't reacting the same way they did before. And once the intensity of the reactions start to fade, what incentive does the industry have to keep pushing you and investing all this money into you? None. There's also something to be said about the demographic that Sexyy Red was being marketed towards, which was primarily Black women. And based on the responses I've seen online, a lot of, those same women who were initially hyped about her are starting to wake up to what's really going on. Not in a judgmental way, but in a self-awareness kind of way. Because once something reaches a certain level of exaggeration or dysfunction or straight up cartoonish behavior, people eventually recognize it for what it is. Now, personally, I think
I gotta believe most of Sexyy Red female fans was like young ladies, teenagers, maybe early 20s. A woman? I ain't gonna say a woman can't like a Sexyy Red song, but I just don't see the woman being a fan of Sexyy Red. A woman, I'm talking about, not a girl.
that all those Black women should have realized, when she made those 4C hair comments, that's what we call internalized hatred, okay? And so I think that should have been the moment where they woke up and they realized, like, damn, she's straight up mocking herself and she's mocking us, right? Now, on top of that, we also know that Sexyy Red's rise was built almost entirely on hype. And when something is built on hype, it fades the moment people take a step back and actually look at what they're consuming. When you change the way you look at things, the things you're looking at actually start to change. And that's kind of when people start to see through the hype and the facade. And I think that's what happened with Sexyy Red. I also don't think that people are as quick to play this kind of music around their children anymore, especially after everything, people have seen from Sexyy Red, but also too, considering everything that's happening in the world right now. Because the truth is, there's a lot of forces operating through social media today, pushing certain ideas, certain behaviors, and planting certain messages in the minds of the youth. Not in some kind of like conspiracy way, but I'm saying in a very algorithm / attention type of way. The stuff that spreads the fastest is usually the stuff that's loudest, wildest, and most chaotic and most dysfunctional. And
I will say a lot of it is just good old-fashioned greed. It's not always a conspiracy. I do think there's some conspiratorial elements to it, but a lot of it's good old-fashioned greed. People want to make money. They don't care who or what they destroy as long as they can make a buck. It's just like the big corporations, the oil companies, they don't give a fuck. They just want to make money. It's not necessarily a conspiracy to destroy Black people, but if they can destroy Black people in the process, for them, they get to kill two birds with one stone, right?
when that becomes the dominant influence in certain spaces, parents and young people themselves start paying attention. And once you recognize the pattern, once you see the intention behind the marketing, you start realizing this isn't something you want influencing the next generation. And that shift right there matters. Because when the core audience becomes more intentional, more protective, and more aware, the entire foundation of that experiment starts to fall apart. Now, look, I think Sexyy Red is going to continue being successful to some extent because she's got a fan base, she's got visibility, and she's built a name for herself. But at this point, it's obvious that the experiment isn't hitting the way it used to. But what the hell do I know? You tell me. Has the experiment failed?
Nah, Sexyy Red out of here, fam. Yeah, Sexyy Red is out of here, man. I got one more clip I wanted to show real quick. This is a short one. What this lady said, I kind of agree with some of it, but this goes back to one of my earlier points. Check this out real quick.
Cannot convince me otherwise that Sexyy Red is not an industry plant that was put here to help finalize the destroying of the Black woman image. They was already had us under attack, and she was here to just finalize the process. The way they trying to force her on us is just crazy. Like, I wanted to go see Drake, but once I found out Drake had her opening for him, absolutely not. Trying to portray it as if we all Pookeishas. And if you don't think that this is successful, just look at what hip hop and stuff did to Black men and how it had people stereotyping Black men as criminals and thugs, right? Even to this day, Black men are still fighting to get away from that stereotype. But as of now, Black women are under attack because this Pookeisha, like this whole narrative that's being pushed that all Black women are so hypersexual because every time you cut on your radio, every time you cut on your TV, all you see is these over hypersexual Black women. That is bad. That is bad. And y'all don't understand what that can lead to. The same way promoting thugs and criminals hurt black men because it led to a stereotype of trailer park trash and allowed women who trailer park trash to be the face of them. You'll never let them see them tarnish their image that way, right? But not us. Not us. We'll let Pookeisha get the limelight. We'll support it. We'll get behind it. We'll sing the trash music. We'll stream the trash music. We'll repost the trash music. We think you cannot convince.
All right. Now, her last part is what I was saying earlier, right? About how too many of us accept those types of figures in our community. And that's why they can get such a big push. Why they can get so much money put behind them, and why they don't stay underground, because businesses and corporations know that there's money to be made, right? But I will say this too. I'm not willing to put the full burden of the destruction of the black woman on Sexyy Red. She's just one vessel of many. I mean, you can go all the way back to the Little Kims and them. I mean, Sexyy Red ain't the first woman to be hypersexualized in hip hop or anything like that. It ain't just rappers. It ain't just that. It's entertainers overall, right? Anybody that you would consider a star or public figure. It didn't start with Sexyy Red. So she's not the burden of the destruction of the black woman is not on Sexyy Red, but she has been used as a conduit and as a tool to continue to propagate that whole thing. And she will not be the last. Yes, it's been a fight. And again, if they see, I guarantee you, if there becomes a movement amongst black people in general, black women, black men, to stop things like this, there's going to be something else. It's going to be another distraction. That's when we really got to be diligent. We got to be focused, and we got to nip that shit in the bud from the get-go, or it's going to keep going. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section below, man. Do you think Sexyy Red is going to be successful in 2026, or do you think her star has burned out? Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.